Alrighty guys, well, I'm back. It's been a bit and I've just been doing stuff, being busy, you know, life in general. But I had a couple people that wanted to see my gaming tower build. This was the cheap $240, $250 run games, not necessarily a high settings gaming tower. I just wanted it, I actually only built it to run one game, and that was BeamNG, because my laptop couldn't do it and I didn't have a whole lot of money to spend. The build video, I did feature a different case, but I couldn't keep using it. We got some random doggage because it had really bad airflow. It was causing the power supply to do all the work, sucking the hot air out, and it was an ultra 600 watt power supply, but the power supply was getting way hotter to the touch than I liked it to, so I just kind of said frig it and went with this case. This case I ended up getting for free a couple of videos back. It's not in great condition. It is used. Some guy gave it to me. I bought a package of computers for like 20 bucks. It was 3 computers. This one came as a box of parts. So it's got dents and it's real cheap aluminum, but it's got the blue light up LED strips in the front, missing covers. There was floppy drives here, another ROM drive there, of which I didn't keep in it. I got the multi-layer DVD burner. On the inside, it's actually a laptop hard drive and an 80 gig Maxter drive that's mounted in there. The laptop drive I think is 160 gig. Moving around to the side, got a case fan with no guard because the original case fan that was on this thing, the wires broke off of it. So I ended up putting this one on here. Unfortunately, I lost the guard that went to the front of the case, or the side of the case. So I don't have it anymore, but as long as you don't jam your fingers in there, it's fine. Moving around to the back, the Ultra 600 watt power supply, plenty of ventilation. This is actually, I do have a small fan with one screw and one zip tie holding it on here, and all this is like an Amd A6 small CPU cooler fan, and I have it connected to the 3-pin jack on the motherboard. Jesus Christ. Anyway, moving on. It's got give me a second here. 2 PS2 ports, a VGA port, a DVI port. No HDMI on this one. The original motherboard that was in the build did have HDMI. It was the ECS motherboard, but my friend's computer's motherboard died, so I gave him that one, and I bought this, I think an ASRock motherboard, A75X chipset. It's a socket FM2 Plus, so it supports the new gen APUs. We got 2 USB 3.0, 4 USB 2.0, and your standard audio jacks. I did add a Radeon 6670 1 gig graphics card into this thing to crossfire with the APU, and if you crossfire that with the A6 5400K, on the box of the A6 5400K it doesn't list that as supported. It will let you dual graphics it, but the benefit that you get is either not there or very minimal, and in some games it was actually a slight decrease in performance. So yeah, moving on to the inside. Let's get this up. We have the small CPU fan that's on a 3-pin header on the motherboard. It's actually a 4-pin fan, but that's just a 3-pin header. We have one 4 gig stick of Patriot Viper Extreme 1600 megahertz memory, and then we have one generic DDR3 1333 RAM stick that is overclocked to 1600 megahertz. So they're both running in dual channel at 1600 megahertz, and so far I haven't had any overheating issues with that RAM stick. I was kind of surprised that it even worked. It was just laying around, and I wanted more than 4 gigs of RAM when I was using the onboard graphics. We have the stock shitty AMD CPU cooler, which actually does quite well with this A6 5400K. It doesn't get hot at all. The hottest I've seen this thing was probably 50 Celsius at the most, and I actually had this overclocked to 4.6 gigahertz with 1.4 or 1.53 volts on the CPU voltage core. So it's pretty much cranked as high as it will go, as high as the voltage in the BIOS lets me set it. And that totally probably came out entirely wrong. I can't really think at the moment. But down here we have the Radeon 6670, which does its job very nicely for a $64 card. I can run Metro Last Light on medium, a game called Remember Me on high, not necessarily an HD res, but a lot of games now I am able to run at 1920 by 1080 with no issues. We got the, I think, 80 gig Maxter drive and the 80 to 160 gig laptop hard drive. Very, very slow, by the way. Don't recommend doing that. I just did it because I had it laying around. And this front intake fan, which to me is, I mean, it moves air, but I don't know where from. Because if you look around the front, besides the holes missing here, if you block these up, there is no intake for this, not even on the bottom of the bezel or anything. Because down here is just the audio jacks and things that don't work because I don't have them hooked up. There's no intake for it, but it does pull in air. Maybe from around the gap right there, I don't know. But so far this case has worked a lot better for ventilation. It's not pretty, but it works. It's got plenty of ventilation to get the heat out. And there's the 600 watt ultra power supply up there. And in the old case, there was just the rear case fan mount right here. The side panel had 120 millimeter fan. There was no intake up here at all. And what was happening is if I was to put a case fan here, it would, since it was only a 3-pin connector, it'd run at full speed, and then it'd siphon the air away from the intake for the 600 watt, and the 600 watt would get unbelievably hot, and I didn't like that. So with all of these fans going, this thing is actually pretty quiet, and it moves plenty of air, plenty of positive pressure to keep the 600 watt happy. But anyway, that was the overview of the cheapo $240 computer build. It would have been more if you guys ordered the parts that I ordered. I did not buy a hard drive, so that would have added probably 50-60 bucks onto the price if you wanted like a 1 terabyte. And I didn't have to buy a Windows operating system, so that's also $100 off the price. But I do still have the case, and I wish it had better airflow, otherwise I'd use it. It works for lower end builds that don't produce as much heat. But anyway, that's about it. Later on, probably today or tomorrow, I might have a video of an old Pentium 3 machine that I have laying around. It was actually my very first computer. It's a Dell Optiplex GX150, and I just reinstalled XP on it, and Windows updates are actually working again for XP. They haven't been for the past month. You couldn't check for updates. It'd just sit there in an endless loop saying checking. I tried every fix available and nothing worked, but all of a sudden Microsoft got their ass in gear, and now it does. So that is awesome. But what my plan is for that is we are going to do some antivirus testing with that machine. I installed the latest copy of Norton Internet Security 2014, and surprisingly, on a 1 GHz Pentium 3 with 512 megs of RAM, it doesn't sap up all the memory like Norton used to do. They're getting a lot better about their memory consumption and slowing down the CPU. It did, or CPU, computer. It did slow it down a fair bit, but I mean, the damn thing is almost 14 years old now, if not at 14 years old, because it had Windows 2000 on it. I think it was built in 2000 or 2001. So yeah, that should be interesting. I just have to not be lazy enough. I just have to not be lazy and do the video, which I keep procrastinating on doing, because that's what I do. I procrastinate. But alright, if you like the video, hit the like button. If you dislike the video, hit the dislike button. Leave a comment, tell me why you liked it or why you disliked it, and let me know if you want more.